Welcome back to the NuttyCast, everybody. My name is Nutty Rat. Internet, we need to have a talk. Recently, and keep in mind, just for those of you watching in chat, I am going to be posting this up on YouTube a little bit later. So, if you'll permit me, I would like to provide a bit of a timeline for people that perhaps don't know what is going on. Piranha Games, the developer of MechWarrior Online, started developing a new game called MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries. Was it 3-4 years ago now is when they kind of really started working on it? 3 years, I guess. And recently, this year, they announced at MechCon last year. MechCon, of course, is an annual convention that happens here in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, in the December timeframe. At MechCon 2018, which I'm wearing the shirt from MechCon with the Corsair. Piranha Games announced that MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries is on track to be released September 10th of this year. And it was going to be released on Steam. Through the spring, we had lots of developer interaction, lots of Ask Me Anything sessions for people that were interested. They had some kind of developer timeline, and then they eventually opened the game up to pre-orders. Again, with the intention that the game was going to be released on Steam. As part of the community pre-order, it's a special pre-order for those of us part of the MechWarrior community. Be it the folks that came in during the initial development phase of MechWarrior Online 7 years ago, got special perks. They're known as founders, and then of course those of us who came later, myself being one of them, we kind of still were able to get in at the community pre-order level and get kind of a good piece of the action. And certainly we paid a premium to be part of that pre-order. The ultimate community pre-order pack, I believe, was $120 Canadian or US. It's been a while since I did the. It's a while since I've done looked at it, but I think it was around that price. And as part of that pre-order, you got access to the Discord, which is a Discord strictly for the folks who are part of the community pre-order, to get regular updates on the status of the game, to ask questions, to get weekly screenshots, that sort of thing. And some really cool content and really cool screenshots. In fact, if we scroll down the page here, these are some of the screenshots that came out of the pre-order Discord, which is pretty damn cool. They were posting these screenshots every week, and certainly looking at this game and getting very excited about it. On April 10th, there was an AMA, and the question came up about the game's release and whether it was going to be released on other platforms. And I believe the question actually asked about Epic Games exclusively. At the time, and I do apologize, I'm not really fully prepared for this, so let me just bear with me 1 second. I want to see if I can very quickly find the video so I can let you hear what was said. While I'm looking this up, I before we get too far into it, I need to give you a full disclosure. I think it's only fair, and so you guys understand where I'm coming from with this. I've been streaming MechWarrior Online for 2.5 years. I started streaming it late 2016, like after MechCon 2016, early 2017. I'm on good terms with Piranha Games. I actually happen to live in Vancouver, which is where Piranha Games is based out of. While I certainly have never been paid by them, they have invited me to attend MechCon twice as an invited guest, as a streamer and content creator. They have provided giveaways for my stream, and that's usually done through No Guts No Galaxy. And I'm friends-ish, acquaintances, or at least on friendly terms with some folks who work for Piranha Games or are contracted by Piranha Games. I also, as you can see on the screen here, I also have an Epic Games account, which I had an Epic Games account a long time ago. The initial plan was to just protect my my username, which I use everywhere. I hope that I'm still able to be objective through this, but I wanted to be very clear and very upfront about my biases, about my kind of my relationship everywhere. No, I'm not getting paid for this. That question's been kind of thrown around. That accusation's been thrown around to a couple people on Twitter, not me specifically. But I do want to be clear that this is just about me and my views and my frustration with the stuff that's going on right now. That's why normally I've got my my affiliations in the kind of on the right here. For the MechWarrior unit that I'm a part of and the stream team that I'm a part of. I have removed those because this is not their opinion. This is really just about my own opinion, so I want to just make that really, really crystal clear. Of course, I talked about that, and then I derped and didn't actually do what I was intended to do, so apologies and bear with me a moment. Like I said, I kind of came to the conclusion this afternoon that this has to happen. This has to happen. A lot of things have been happening both on Twitter and on Reddit, not to mention some influencers on YouTube, and even influencers here on Twitch that have kind of, I don't want to say lost the plot, but have certainly kind of gone in a direction that I wasn't expecting. So on April 10th, there was an AMA, and this is very important as part of this, because there's a lot of frustration in the community, and it's important for everybody to understand why that frustration is there. So let me just do this here. Let me just bring up this YouTube video. Pull this over here. You can see my current addiction to hot ones, which it's fantastic. Watch people eat really hot wings and all that kind of stuff. So this is on April 10th. So this is while the pre-order is still going on.
But I guess all I can say is that right now there's no plans to make MechWarrior 5 an Epic Store exclusivity, and that's as simply as I can put it. It's Steam at the moment. We're planning on releasing it again on Steam, and we're actually also planning releasing it for GOG. I think this could be more the official announcement for that. We haven't really done that yet. I think we've hinted around it, but we've done GOG Galaxy integration, and I've been talking to those guys over there at GOG for a long time, and so it looks like you'd have your choice of the two keys at the moment. And those are the the planned platforms at the moment, and the game will be for sale on a lot of other platforms too. But those will be mostly at the moment. The plan is that those would just be like Steam key distribution type things, as well as our own portal, which would then allow the choice of those two different key options. So that's where everything sits now, and that's the way it'll probably go.
All right. So the reason why I brought that up, so that's April 10th. Let's fast forward to July 25th, 6 days ago. Piranha Games announced that MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries is now going to be released exclusively on the Epic Games Store. Here I've got the page, the store page for MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries. That's up in the Epic Games Store right now. You can't pre-order anything. It's just sitting there saying coming soon. But here it is on the Epic Games Store. When this was announced 8 hours prior to an AMA. And the community as a whole, I shouldn't say as a whole. I want to try to be fair. I would say there is certainly a vocal contingent of the community that got very upset over this change. There are people that don't like Epic Games for a number of reasons. It could be their business practices, the fact that their store isn't very good, security breaches that have happened. Some folks are even concerned over the fact that a minority investor is based in China, which means they have links to the Chinese government. But a lot of people were really focused on the Epic Game Store part of this, and the fact that it's no longer going to be on Steam, that there's going to be no Steam keys, and it'll be on Epic Store for a year, from December 10th, 2020, which is now the new launch date, all the way to, December 10th, 2019, later this year. And then exclusively on Epic until December 10th, 2020. So there were two AMAs that happened, one on the 25th and one on the 26th in the morning. I attended the one on the 26th in the evening. I had I rebroadcasted it live here. You can catch the VOD on my YouTube channel. We listened to the entire AMA. I made it a point to not try to interrupt or inject opinion, though. I mean, I was reacting a little bit, and certainly a little on the emotive side. And then we had a fantastic post-AMA discussion. So April 10th was when that AMA happened, where Russ is sounding very nervous answering that question. Kind of stuttering a lot. Certainly seeming to be uncomfortable with the question. And then we found out during the AMA that Epic Game Store exclusivity was confirmed at the end of April, which means at April 10th, they were certainly in discussions with Epic Game Store. That, on the surface, sounds very bad. And in many respects, I can kind of understand why the community is really upset about this. It certainly was a difficult pill to swallow for those that don't like Epic Games. I'm personally not a huge fan of them. However, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, I'm never going to give Epic Games a cent." And if I was to probably dig through history, these were likely the same people that celebrated the fact that MechWarrior 5 is going to be released on the Unreal Engine, which, by the way, is owned by Epic and licensed by Epic. And Epic gets if it wasn't released on the Epic Game Store, Epic would have received a 5% cut of revenue as part of their default license terms. I can only go by the default license terms. I don't know if they've ever negotiated a different term for that. So as you can, there's a lot more to the story than that, but I wanted to at least kind of catch everybody up with the timeline. When MechWarrior 5 was first in development, really, Steam was ubiquitous with everything, right? If you're developing a game, you're either developing it to release on Steam, or you're developing it to release on your own store, or you're doing both at the same time. Ubisoft is a good example of that. Ubisoft releases games on Steam, but they also have their own platform called Uplay, where they sell as well. Piranha Games released, they didn't release MechWarrior Online on Steam, but they brought MechWarrior Online to Steam, primarily distributed by their own client, to which, in the April 10th AMA, Russ kind of, mentioned the possibility of, at the time, saying that it was going to be released on the Piranha Games portal in addition to at the time Steam and GOG. So to say that a game was being developed when Epic Games wasn't really fully a thing, wasn't even part of the in the conversation. I know in the AMA rather that Russ had on the 25th, he kind of did let slip that there was some kind of conversation about Epic Games, but there was no elaboration on that. So I'm not going to say that it would have been an exclusive discussion or exclusivity discussion. Maybe just a, hey, can we release on Epic Games as well? So the exclusivity was confirmed around the end of April. Russ said during this AMA, but that there was a 3-day overlap from before the community pre-order closed to when the exclusivity for Epic Games was confirmed. Now, like I said, there's a lot of people that are upset about the idea of the fact that it's changed stores from Steam to Epic. I'll acknowledge that. I'll say that they are in their absolute right to be upset over that. Some people don't like to have multiple game launchers. I get it. Even though really in this day and age, it's hard to not have multiple game launchers. I mean, let's a quick run down the list: Steam, GOG, Uplay, Origin, Epic, Battle.net, Bethesda, any number of other launchers that are out there or stores that have been set up. Some, of course, are set up just for their own. For their own products, mostly. Others are expanding beyond that. Battle.net is a good example of one that, up until very recently, has been limited to just games by Blizzard, but now they've kind of gone beyond that. So, I personally don't agree with that argument that I just don't want another game launcher. It's like, if it was 7 or 8 years ago, I would. I would be relatively supportive of that argument, relatively speaking. In this day and age, everything is being diversified. You look outside of gaming, for example, Netflix used to be the only streaming platform in the market. Now you've got Netflix, you've got CBS All Access, Disney is getting ready to release their own, you got Amazon Prime. The day of having one location to get everything is gone. That's just the nature of technology. It's the way things go. So I sympathize with people that don't necessarily want to have that. I mean, it's certainly frustrating, but I say that that's not the issue here. That's not the problem. The challenge is, and from what I can see, is a couple of things. And let me just say that there is a lot of blame to be thrown around on both sides of this discussion. This isn't really about. This is really not about Epic Games. It kind of is, but it's really not. This is a fracture that has been kind of brewing for a long time between Piranha Games and the MechWarrior community as a whole. When I started streaming back in, back at the beginning of 2017. End of 2017 rather. Sorry, I keep on getting my timing mixed up with that. Or no, beginning 2017. They didn't go to went to MechCon 2017, 2018. Yeah, so beginning of 2017. Sorry. Again, I'm doing this off the cuff, so I don't have a script or anything. I'm just kind of going. I'm just rolling as I go, we'll say. But anyways. For them to say that they're going to release the game on Steam is understandable. It's reasonable. It's a reasonable expectation they're going to release on Steam. The part where a problem, the whole point about going back that far as Piranha Games versus the community. When I started streaming MechWarrior Online, the game community was a very different place. It was very supportive. It was, for the most part, positive. whether or not you were, one of the elites at the game or brand new, you would typically always have a very good time. At the time, there were a few toxic people that were out there playing the game, but by and by and large, whether it was on Twitch, on Twitter, in Reddit, or on the PGI official forums for MechWarrior, the conversation was generally good. I mean, there were memes thrown around, and memes are always a lot of fun, but it was certainly less of a it was less kind of pointing fingers and getting incredibly upset, and more people enjoying the game and enjoying the interaction, both within the community and a decent to good relationship from the community to Piranha Games. Now, I think there were some development decisions that were made that the community didn't like. The skill tree was one of them, the engine desync, and the community generally started to voice their concerns a lot more boldly. They had more suggestions on things of whether something was a good decision. In some cases, Piranha Games certainly responded, but not to everything. And I noticed that as this went on, there seemed to have been a bit more distance put between the two. You've got the great folks at NGNG doing their best with community outreach, keeping everybody engaged, supporting all the streamers, certainly doing everything that they can to help the community grow. But on the developer side, that felt like there was a bit of a disconnect. And that kind of grew. Part of the reason had to do with the fact that when you go into Reddit sometimes, and I know Reddit's kind of a bit of a cesspool, but you start reading people yelling for Piranha Games folks to be fired, to loot, to why do you have a job? Just leave, just fire and hire somebody else. When we get to that kind of comments, it's no longer a discussion, right? It's now just it's a witch hunt, or it's just wanting to kind of shift blame and push stuff everywhere. And I kind of saw that early on, and I'm like, how can people talk like that to the developer, but yet still expect them to partner with them and work with them? And Piranha Games certainly tried. The community asked for a lot of work in faction play, and they certainly tried to do that. And then the end result wasn't very well. Wasn't received lightly. We'll say it wasn't received positively. So, Piranha Games knows, just from that reaction. Again, this is my opinion. I can't actually read from what's going on inside the folks at PGI. But I'm sure you can imagine they look at that reaction and they go, okay, no matter what we're going to do, we're going to get some kind of crap thrown at us. So it makes it, and then of course it puts them in a bad position with this, right? So we already have this fractious relationship, or a relationship that's starting to become fractious. Piranha Games announced MechWarrior 5 is going to be released on Steam very early on, before Epic Games was really, or the Epic Games Store rather, wasn't really a thing then. They were still working on Fortnite and making quite a bit of money from that. So then the goalposts changed, and I don't think Piranha Games was ready or prepared to do that. I've seen a lot of stuff thrown around on Twitter around, Russ is lying, PGI is lying. What's with the lies? What's with the bait and switch and the deceit and all that kind of stuff? I don't think it was. I don't think this was fully intentional. Like I mentioned before, when you develop a game, it's kind of almost expected that you're releasing on Steam. Steam is ubiquitous with gaming nowadays. I think the misstep was that Piranha Games, I don't think they engaged any kind of outside help, marketing help, brand management help in regards to how do we word this so we don't get in trouble and so we don't upset people and we still maintain some level of honesty while contract negotiations are ongoing. You see, here's the thing about what they were doing with Epic Games. So they started going into discussions with Epic Games whenever those discussions started. I don't think he mentioned when the discussions started, other than saying that they talked about it at just after MechCon. But let's just say for sake of argument that the discussions started in January. So during contract negotiations, you have to be very careful. Contracts can terminate at any time. Contract negotiations can break down if you do any kind of missteps. And when you're talking about potentially millions of dollars, then you have to consider a lot of disclosure statements and non-disclosure agreements as part of that contract negotiation. You don't talk about it. You don't go on a stream and say, "Oh, but we're negotiating with Epic Games right now." You don't say that, because all that does is that actually hurts your position in contract negotiation. Now, this is where I think the big misstep is that they kept to the same line that they're going to release on Steam. Like I said, there was the April 10th AMA where Russ was very uncomfortable, and he was really uncomfortable answering that question and even saying that it was going to be released on Steam. You can hear it, right? Russ is usually really clear and concise. But when I say clear and concise, I mean he's not stumbling over his words. He's unless the one time when he had too much to drink on a stream and was getting a little bit crazy, but Russ is usually pretty good at answering questions, and on that one, he was noticeably uncomfortable answering the question. Sorry, I'm pouring myself a drink here because certainly all the stuff that's happened on Twitter has really thrown me, and I went and got some good scotch today. So, cheers to everybody. So, the community reaction is piss poor. I want to be clear about this, and this is the part that's really pissing me off. There are things that both sides have done that I think are in very bad form. I think the community, as in general, and certainly there's a vocal minority, and I'll say a big minority of people who are who have kind of taken it to a level that I think they shouldn't have gone. I think there's a reasonable contingent of folks that are out there who chose to refund because they didn't like Epic Games, or they didn't like the messaging that came out or the way that it came out. And I think that as a community, we need to address that and we need to fix it. We can't just sit there and slag off a developer for making, a good business decision. And don't get me, and I want to be clear, Piranha Games making the decision to go Epic exclusive purely on the financial side of things makes a ton of sense. You're looking at a 12% cut versus 35% that you lose. On the financials on its own, it makes a lot of sense. Where Piranha Games made a huge mistake is they made it in a couple ways. So we lost the plot around our discourse with Piranha Games. I don't want to call out specific people, but I do want to say that there have been Twitch streamers and YouTube content creators and other influential players in the game that have said some pretty crappy stuff, and stuff that I think doesn't help matters. It's not gonna tell Piranha Games to turn around and release the game on Steam instead of Epic Games. That ship sailed. The contract's been signed. We're not gonna go. They can't go backwards unless they pay their contract penalty, and the contract penalty could potentially end the company, depending on the terms of the breakage. There's a silent group of people in the community who either just decided not to talk because they don't want to get involved in the shitstorm. And I don't blame them for that, because anybody that talks out about it, if they're not throwing salt at Piranha Games, they're laughed at. They're poked fun of. And this is why I'm leveling criticisms against both sides. And I'm trying to be reasonable here. Like, I'm not gonna say F this or F that or anything like that. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair to the community, and I don't think it's fair to Piranha Games. So we know what the community's done. We've read it. We've read the posts on Twitter. We've seen the posts in Reddit. We've watched the videos on YouTube. That sorry, my microphone volume wasn't getting a little bit. There we go. We've done all of those things on the community side. But let's look at again. I can't hold Piranha Games blameless. I can't. The language should have been changed once the discussions had started, not when the contract was signed. It doesn't mean that I think that they should have said it was going to be an Epic Games exclusive, but they should have they should have removed the mention to Steam as a platform, and just put in just what they did with that kind of interim FAQ, the one that kind of tipped off a lot of people to the fact that something was coming. They should have removed the mention of Steam as soon as those conversations were started, and that way they could just say that we're pursuing opportunities to release on multiple platforms potentially. They could have wordsmithed it in a different way that wouldn't have upset the community, and the community wouldn't have been pre-ordering a game expecting to get a Steam key. And then later in an AMA, when they were close to finalizing the terms, for Piranha Games to throw in the GOG thing as well. I also feel that, and again from listening to the AMA, Russ, to me, felt like he was being very dismissive of the community. He said, "Oh, we knew this backlash was going to happen. We're just going to offer refunds." There was no acknowledgement that I could hear, either in the conversation on the AMA, in the tweet storm that followed. I didn't hear any kind of even just basic empathy from Russ on the, hey, people are really upset, right? They love the game. They've supported for Piranha Games for up to 7 years, depending on how long they've played MechWarrior Online. Longer if they played any of the previous titles. Right? Russ just said, you know what, we're going to release this, and yeah, there's going to be a backlash. And that's terrible. That is... That type of attitude, I don't think flies in a gaming community where the average age of gamer is much higher than, say, Fortnite, Dota, Counter-Strike, all those other games that have a generally younger demographic who wouldn't be able to put their displeasure so eloquently. Piranha Games is based in Canada. In Canada, we actually have an apology law. Believe it or not, we have one of those things. In Canada, you are able to apologize for something without legal recompense. As in, you do not have to you do not have to admit guilt, and if it was something, if there was actually some kind of legal case, which I don't. There's been like some like talks about doing like some kind of class action. It's not going to happen. No, not in the least. Some empathy from Piranha Games to the community, I think, is necessary. Russ made a business decision was certainly a net positive as far as they're concerned for their financials. They said during the MechWarrior Online developer update earlier this year that MechWarrior Online, with the revenue coming in for that game, cannot sustain Piranha Games, the game studio, the way it is right now, meaning that they can't use MechWarrior Online to fund both MechWarrior Online developers and MechWarrior 5 developers. Doesn't mean that the company's bankrupt, but it certainly means that there were some challenges there. So Russ had to make a decision that is good for the game studio, and I actually wrote this. These are all my notes from the AMA, and there's quite a few things that I kind of pulled out from what he said. And I'm trying to find the one thing where he said that, and it's something that really kind of came out, really kind of threw me off here a little bit. Where the heck was my notes? Give me 1 second. Sorry, I do apologize. Again, I'm kind of throwing this together last minute. I'm dumping this. I was gonna do a YouTube video, like an actual scripted one, but I'm not very good at that. Where the heck is it? Gosh, there we go. So this is what I'm looking at here, about, because somebody asked in the AMA, why should we not refund? And I think that's a fantastic question, because it gives Piranha Games a chance to kind of resell themselves in a way. They made the decision, the best decision for the game and the studio. There is a community disconnect there, right? The only part of the community that gets mentioned is the community blowback part, as in they knew we were going to be upset, but they said, okay, well, let's forge ahead. That tone deafness is partially our fault, but Piranha Games is the only one that can fix that. We need to fix. We kind of need to fix that in a way that, we need to kind of focus on the problems and stop with the personal attacks. Not call for someone to be fired, or that they suck at their job, or something along those lines. That kind of language needs to stop. It just does. It's cringy. It achieves absolutely nothing. One thing I have to give praise, though, too, is I do have to give praise to the people that come and watch my channel. The reason that the reason for that is the night of the AMA. I went and actually no, I think it was the night after, because we did the AMA, and we did the post AMA discussion. Then I went to bed. Friday night, did the MWO happy hour. Mark Nicholson, who is one of the mech designers at Piranha Games, he came by and joined in the stream and hung out. And absolutely nobody on in the Discord or in chat, and even in the games that we played, nobody dogpiled him. Nobody was like, so MechWarrior 5, huh? Nobody did that. And I want to thank everybody that was here on Friday night for doing that, because that's huge. It's a sign that not all of us are terrible. If you know what I mean. right? That I would say that there is a majority of the community that's out there that's actually really positive. There is a very vocal minority of the community that is certainly causing challenges for everybody here. So I skipped. There's a lot of things that I kind of skipped over, mainly because I had this idea in my head as to how this was going to be. On my way to the gym after work, I had all kinds of different plans. I was gonna yell. I was gonna get angry. I was going to kind of go like, I don't know if you guys ever watch the YouTuber Tipster, where he goes over a bunch of things. I was kind of thinking, yeah, maybe I'll go full Tipster, but I've got nowhere near his skill doing this kind of stuff. In the end, I just wanted to talk to you guys. I wanted to be like, hey, you know what? There's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of shitty stuff that's out there that people are saying. They are, I will say that there are folks in the community that are absolutely justified for being upset. People that have canceled have chose to cancel their pre-orders. That they're not doing it because they're mad, because they hate PGI or anything like that, but because they disagree with the choice of going with Epic Games exclusive. So there are lot of reasonable people that are out there, but I'm glad they were able to do that. And, I'll say huge props to Piranha Games for saying, you know what? We're changing the platform. We are giving you refunds, no questions asked till September 1st. Now, some people in Reddit are saying that they're only being offered $50 and they're getting the excuse that, it's because of the pre-order content. Unless I see something like official saying that, I kind of don't really put a lot of trust or faith in that. That sounds like a lot like fake news. So let's talk about why I'm not gonna cancel my pre-order. Let's talk about maybe my own personal opinion of this first. So I kind of mentioned a little bit, smattered throughout this little chat, but this is what I see. I see a company that made a business decision that is best for the company and for their employees, in order to keep the lights on, to keep the games under development, to give the studio more time to earn some more money, and hopefully, and I'll cross my fingers and hope that this will happen, is of course MechWarrior Online on Unreal. I know it's a pipe dream in many respects, but this would be I would say one of the few things that few things that would make that more of a reality, to kind of partner directly with the creator of the game engine to release their games. In going to MechCon both years, in interacting with NGNG, with Darren and Phil, talking to Mark, interacting with Piranha Games staff at the studio tours and at MechCon themselves, I see and hear the passion that they have for the game, for the title itself. I wish I could say the same thing about Russ. He talks about it a lot. I've only said hi to him, and that was only at one. It was only really at one MechCon at MechCon last year. I got to say hi to him and walked away. That's about the most I could get. But in fairness, MechCon's pretty busy for the PGI folks. But I appreciate the passion that the folks at the game studio put into the game. They care about it. They're excited about it. I think they put a lot of love and care and attention into the game, even though we might not necessarily agree with their design or balance decisions. They care about the game. It's a game it's a free-to-play game that's been running for 7 years. Russ put his game studio on the line to develop a game that he loves. and he's taken on considerable risk. Going earlier when when I mentioned at the I meant for those of you who are joining in the stream now, I did have a disclosure at the beginning of this, just to kind of mention what my biases are. And the fact that I've got I hope I still have a good relationship with Piranha Games. I'm trying to be fair, but a good relationship with Piranha Games and the folks that work there. And I want, and they have been very good to me. My stream would not be the way it is if it wasn't for the support that I've received over the last 2.5 years from Piranha Games. Primarily through Darren and Phil, which I am very appreciative of. But I need to be clear that that I certainly have some personal reasons why I decided not to. Not to cancel my pre-order, and what my opinion is on the matter. I was in the camp of I was upset when I saw that it went to Epic exclusive. Holy crap! But I also kind of thought for a moment. It's like, well, hang on a second. I already have an Epic Games account, so I can still play the game, and it's not really a big deal. It's a change in venue for me, so it's not for me. That's not a big deal. I've played MechWarrior since MechWarrior 3050 for Super Nintendo when it was new. I'm old. I'm 40 at the end of the year. So I love the game. I appreciate the passion from the developer. I appreciate the fact that they've been able to keep MechWarrior Online going for 7 years. And sure, we're having a challenge with game population and whatnot, but they certainly are still trying. So me keeping my pre-order is a vote for the employees at Piranha Games, the folks that actually do the work, for NG, who have been so kind to help not only myself, but a lot of the other streamers and content creators that are out there. And I want to play the game. I don't want to wait. Let's be real. It's Stompy Robots. So I'm more than willing to have a conversation with folks if you'd like. Would love to hear different opinions. I've been not fully paying attention to chat, kind of on purpose, because I just didn't want to get derailed. But if anybody wants to come on and talk about it for a little bit, you're absolutely welcome to. All I ask is that we keep it respectful. Certainly if you're kind of upset with what's going on, absolutely say, hey, this isn't right. But let's kind of try not to try not to kind of lose the plot, so to speak. You can being a little heated is fine. Saying things that are not possible, like, oh, they should just not release on Epic Games. Again, ship sailed. It's being released on Epic Games. Then yeah, you're welcome to come in. Either that, or we can go play some MechWarrior Online. That's those are the two things that I'm offering at the moment.
Good evening, Nutty, in his chat.
Lefty Frizz, how you doing?
Hey.
Val, good to see you.
I'm well, sir. Yourself?
I was angry earlier today. And this kind of is all kind of dovetailed into why I decided, part of the reasons why I decided to do this is I got really mad at a lot of things very quickly, but I realized that, that anger isn't the way to go about it. That cooler heads need to prevail, and we need our stompy robots.
Agreed. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I guess the biggest thing that, from everything that's come about, that's kind of upset me is that the 2018 MechCon was supposed to be the MW5 release party.
Yes.
And then it got moved back to September.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they said that they're moving it back again, I'm going, that's when it really got to me that they just don't, they have a grasp of what they're trying to give us, but not necessarily is it in the vision quite yet and not polished enough. Even though we had the pods to sit down and play and everything looked great, but I know there's more to it than what we got to see. But it was just the timing of saying, okay, hype everybody up for this, then drop. Now we're gonna do this, then drop. So that's the only thing that really got to me, is that I'm looking forward to something, and oh, okay, another setback. Other than that, I'm good with it.
So one way to think of it, and I'm not, and I'll say it's fair criticism. It sucks to have a release date and then have that release date pushed and have the release date pushed. When was the last time they released a game?
What did this come out? 2012? 13?
It's been 7 years.
Is that how long of my life I've devoted to this game? Jeez.
Yeah.
God, I've only been devoted to this game since just before MechCon 17. So no, it's MechCon 16. Just before MechCon 16. So I've only been playing for just over 3 years.
I got into closed beta day one.
I never even knew about this game until 16. So I've never even heard of it.
On the topic of the game constantly being pushed back, I would prefer to see it continue to be pushed to get a game that's released that is healthy, stable, and content rich. If you look at another game developer, very similar size, very similar scope, look at Wildcard Games with the release of Ark and then the release of Atlas, and the constant, we want to get the game out, we promised it on this date, we're going to release it on this date for you to do X, Y, and Z. And then it is nothing but a dumpster fire because it's not ready.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am completely okay with them pushing it for it's not ready for you guys yet. We want you to have a game that you're going to love. Yeah, we're going to face some backlash, but if we release you a game that's a dumpster fire, we're going to get just as much backlash anyway. Going back to your comment that, that Piranha Games is very much in a, we can't please everybody no matter what situation. And the community is very vocal and is willing to try to crucify everybody at Piranha Games for any or no reason at all. So I appreciate the fact that they are saying, hey, we are going to try to get you a feature-rich game, and we're willing to push it back to do that.
Yeah, and I'm also kind of willing personally, and again, this is personal. I'm not kind of downloading this on anybody. Is that I look at the reschedule after the pre-order was taken. I look at that as really the first scheduled move, because it was way too early for them to tell before MechCon last year whether or not the game was really ready. So in my eyes, once they did the community pre-order, that's the timer that starts. And for them to push it once, it happens. To push it a bunch of times, once the pre-order bucks have been taken, I mean, that's when I'll personally take some exception to that.
Yeah, no, I can see your point. If they were going to push it, they should have pushed it to a position where they knew they would be able to get everything ready one way or the other.
Yeah.
Instead of doing like, if you have to go to your friends or your family to borrow money for a situation, you don't keep going back for a little bit at a time. You say, hey, this is how much I'm going to need. Let's, have an honest discussion about that. Do it once and then live up to your expectations from there. So yeah, I can agree with that criticism.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like with the delay, for me, it's made a little better that they've been really communicative about the development of the game thus far. Constant updates on the Discord, AMAs all the time. There's so many games that you've pre-ordered in their early access or coming soon or whatever that the developer just falls off the map. You don't hear anything for 6 months at a time. And Right.
Yes.
And PGI has not done that. They've kept people updated. Here's where we're at with the game. So
Yeah.
it helps.
So
I would have preferred it'll be out when it's ready instead of like continuously push back releases. Just a message saying, we'll have it when it's ready.
Sure. No, I could see that. So let's kind of go. Let's kind of maybe I can kind of ask around the table here as far as kind of the some of the topics that I covered in my little chat there. I know that there's certain things that I skipped over, like the FAQ thing, the tweet that Russ that I had sent a tweet at Russ about asking about that, and he completely. I think it completely caught him off guard, and it's rather interesting that shortly after that tweet, the AMA was scheduled. So I just kind of maybe let's kind of maybe ask, what do you feel about this? Like, what do you think about the situation that Piranha Games kind of found themselves in, where they reasonably said that they're going to release on Steam at a time when the Epic Game Store wasn't even a thing, right? So forget just this past MechCon. Go to the MechCon before, which is where they were talking about Mech 5, talking about Mech 5 Mercenaries development. We had an early playable demo to it. It was fantastic. The Epic Game Store wasn't really there yet. They hadn't started their exclusive run. Metro Exodus hadn't happened or anything like that. And I think it was reasonable at the time for them to say, yeah, we're going to release on Steam because it's the internet. All games release on Steam. To then be stuck in a position where that is no longer a thing because the technology landscape has changed so much between then and now. And now it's not just Steam. And I mean, granted, the other stores have been around for a long time, but it's usually Steam plus something else, unless it's a personal store. But now you've got Epic Games as really disrupting the industry with their whole exclusive purchases, which I don't like, by the way. I actually really despise that practice, but that's their business practice. So what do you guys think of that, about the position that Piranha Games found themselves in, that it was a self-inflicted problem, but it was certainly one that was difficult to dig out of and not an unreasonable one to get themselves into?
Can I say something?
No. Everybody else is allowed to talk here except for you, Keswick. I'm totally kidding. Go ahead.
It looks like to me that Steam is where a lot of people get the crowdfunding to jump off a lot of games. And granted, they didn't ask for money to launch MechWarrior 5, but they did use the platform almost in a crowdfunding kind of way where they got all the attention. Am I wrong in saying that?
MechWarrior 5 was never on Steam.
Yeah, they announced it now. So here's the thing, Kazak. I'm not sure if you caught the whole thing or not. When you talk about distribution of games in today's market, and even if you go back, say, 3 or 4 years, Steam is ubiquitous with that. Meaning that unless it's an EA release or a what's the other one, or a Blizzard release, that it is going to be released on Steam. Right? It's kind of an expected thing. And in the case of some developers, it's Steam plus their own store, like Ubisoft.
But they did market it. They did market it too. I mean, am I wrong in guessing that? I mean,
well, they said it, right? It was on their website, but there was never a Metro Exodus, meaning that there was never anything published on Steam where they were taking. Yeah, well, they mentioned Steam, but it was never put into Steam.
No, I mean they never mentioned MechWarrior 5 on Steam.
Yes, that's right.
I see.
And that's a huge difference. And the reason there's a huge difference, when you look at what happened with Metro Exodus started taking pre-orders on Steam, and then they went to Epic, and Valve was like, "Well, this is certainly shitty." Go ahead, Rothgar. Sorry.
So when they were you touched on the timing of when they were talking to Epic and when they committed to Epic and when they announced the end of pre-orders, et cetera, et cetera. They've taken a lot of backlash over that. And from a quick overview, broad stroke, it probably is justified. But when you look at what's probably happening behind the scenes, I highly doubt there was any intention to mislead the players in the player base at that point. They probably were in discussion with GOG and Epic and all of these across the board. They're having these conversations saying, look, we're shopping this around. We're looking for the best deal. We need to figure out the best way to go. And we're going to be honest with you. We are talking to Epic Games. What can you offer me, GOG, to keep me from going Epic exclusive? What can you offer me, Steam, to keep me from going Epic exclusive? Okay, Epic, what are you going to offer me to keep from going with these other platforms and going exclusive to you? These conversations are probably all happening, braided in together, where maybe they're going from one meeting to the next, and there might be representatives from both companies in the building at the same time. I mean, that sort of thing. So I don't think it was necessarily an attempt to mislead the players when that was happening. I think it was very much we shopped the game around. We chose the best deal for keeping this project alive and keeping the best decision of the business, because they are a business to make money and to get their game to where it needs to be, so they have something to be proud of.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not worried about that much so much as the communication that they did around it, right? They can do that as much as they want, and that's perfectly fine. I hate to say it, but Piranha Games has a problem with communication. They always have.
That is, nobody I think could argue that.
Yeah, even down to like the spelling mistakes that go on the website. And that's kind of nitpicky, but I think there's always been a huge challenge of communication with Piranha Games, things not being communicated clearly or one thing said then another. And I'm surprised, especially for something like this, right, for a big release like MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, that they didn't engage either their internal talent or an external marketing firm to help them, especially when it comes to things like changing platforms. Like folks are talking about in the chat about the fact that that they didn't say that there were going to be changes or anything like that, that they kind of kept status quo, and I'll say kind of further buried themselves when they did like the AMA question. The AMA question on April 10th, that was like Russ saying, "Oh yeah, well we're gonna release on GOG," when I think at the time Russ knew pretty pretty substantially at that point that that's not going to happen, or wasn't going to happen until a year. So someone in chat, Zentis, said he wants to present an interesting idea, but you want to make sure that I'm paying attention. I mean, I'm kind of partially paying attention, and you're welcome to come into Discord here if you want to talk about it instead of type. If you want to type, that's cool as well. Zentzis, okay. If you do want to join the Discord and join the discussion, by the way, you are welcome to. Again, all we ask is that we keep the conversation productive. There's the link to Discord. Jump into the waiting room, and I'll drag you into the currently locked channel. But I mean, I think there's no question, absolutely no question, that there was a major communications breakdown, and I will say a disconnect, in addition to the communications breakdown, on the community. And I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind, that, while I'd like to think I'm being reasonable here and trying to keep a level head, I certainly feel that Piranha Games made some big mistakes here. I certainly think that the community has somewhat enabled a couple of those mistakes. and the community response to those mistakes from the community side has certainly not been very positive, and the lack of empathy on the Piranha Games side is really, really disappointing. So go ahead, Zenzis, go ahead, man. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Frustrated, but I'm doing good. I'm glad we're talking about it. I'm glad we're having a reasonably good discussion here. So you said you had an idea, so I'll happily
so I
give you a
did have
chance.
a thought. I'm not gonna stick around for long because it's late here. But
Sure.
I was thinking about Russ had said in the AMA, he'd made some comments about how the standard go-to argument that developers have, which is the 12 to 88 versus the 30 to 70. And his desire for discoverability, which I've said multiple times, doesn't seem very much like a good idea considering Epic. And it got me thinking, why not, if you're going to release the game exclusively on a platform, why not Discord? Now, hear me out. I know Discord is not great, and I still don't support exclusives, but Discord only takes 10%. So you'd be looking at 15 total between Unreal and Discord itself. And then, you open up Discord and it immediately takes you to the news page / store page. Everyone uses Discord and doesn't necessarily have an issue with it, though possibly the buying game side of it. I just feel like that might have been a much smarter idea than going with Epic.
I think Cyclone really hit the reason why on the head right there.
Yeah,
the cash up front.
The cash up front, yeah.
Yeah, because Epic certainly. Let's be clear here. Epic has a lot of money.
Yeah.
The success of Fortnite and the success of the Unreal Engine, generally speaking, they certainly have a lot of funds to be able to offer these type of exclusivity deals. And you got to consider the titles they were able to pull over. Metro Exodus, they pulled over. Satisfactory, which is not a big game studio, but was certainly an interesting thing to shift over. Borderlands 3, right? Like they were able to entice some pretty decent sized developers, and I'll say even indie developers that have that were in the works, had a popular game in the works. World War Z, according to Cyclone. Sorry, I'm Canadian.
Hades is another big one that I've noticed. Yeah.
Sure. So I was kind of glazing over the Epic stuff, but one of the things that I'll mention is that when you look at game stores, right, and I'll say Discord is part of this. Like, I knew that Discord released games, but I never look at
me neither.
Right. So I think that the exposure from the fact that almost everybody uses Discord for VoIP is there, but I think that's a harder sell because they don't see Discord as a game service. They see it as a VoIP service.
And what you just said though hits a nail on the head with the Epic Store. And this is my perception. This might be very inaccurate, but here's the way that I'm looking at it based on the things I hear about Epic is most of the people that are getting Epic are getting it because it is imposed upon them to be able to play a game they want. And if I was in that position and I actually decided to use Epic, I would launch the launcher, boot the game, and that'd be it. I'm not going to spend any time messing around in the store because I don't care. If I want to go buy a game, I'm probably going to use Steam or GOG or one of the reputable launchers. I don't think that there's a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think that there's a lot of ground to be able to say, oh, our game is going to have a lot of discoverability on Epic when, it might be on the store page, but who's looking?
Well, so here's an interesting thing. When Steam first launched, this is going to date me. This is going back to 2003, 2002, 2003, somewhere around there. Valve did the exact same thing with Counter-Strike. Because when Steam launched, it wasn't a store. Steam was just a content delivery network for patches for Counter-Strike and Half-Life and all that kind of stuff. But same idea. Just a different, a kind of a less nuanced version, you could say, right? Steam launched and said, okay, well, if you want to play, CS 1.6, or get up to source or anything like that, then you need to be on Steam in order to receive those updates. Like I said, different, slightly different, but I'll say somewhat similar. Now you have to remember, Epic Game Store, Fortnite. How big is Fortnite?
Huge.
So you've got all the people that play, well, not all, but most, that play Fortnite. That'll come through the Epic Games. They'll come through the Epic Games launcher. It's when you launch it, you're on this home screen, and depending on the marketing that what they do, it's it'll be here. Like this is the homepage, the front page that I think Russ is talking about. Yeah, these guys paid a kid millions of dollars. So, I think that, and my opinion on this has shifted in the past like 2 weeks since this all started. I was very much against a lot of the business practices of Epic Games. I still don't like exclusives. I think they're bad. I think and I think the way that Epic is going about it is by and large very anti-gamer, because like you said, you're forcing somebody to pay to install this particular launcher to play a game. Well, guess what? Any Ubisoft game that you play, you have to install Uplay.
Well, if I can interject there,
Yep.
there's a pretty big difference, because launchers like Uplay and Origin, they're first party exclusives, so it's only their games. And I feel like if
Sure.
you've made the game, you have a right to decide that you're only going to sell it on your launcher. That doesn't always work out. We saw that with Bethesda.net, and the fact that all the Bethesda games are getting moved back to Steam because Bethesda.net just didn't work out. And there's also something to be said about just having a very non-functional product. I'd probably have a lot fewer issues with Epic and their exclusivity if their launcher actually functioned decently. But I mean, the fact that we don't even have a shopping cart, but we're having this imposition where to get these really big popular games, we have to go and use this inferior product. That's what I have an issue with. I feel like if Epic really wanted to compete, they would make their product better. They wouldn't just buy out the competition so that we have to use them.
Yeah, I completely agree. The Epic Game Store, as far as like functionality is concerned, is terrible. Cyclone saying that. Yeah, go ahead, Rothgar. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Finish your thought.
No,
A couple thoughts that I had to the discourse that just happened there. First, the discoverability. Look at the next generation of gamers and where they're going to be. Yes, MechWarrior is a more mature gaming platform. I mean, it's been around since Nutty and I were kids, and but we started playing it as kids. So the people who are playing Fortnite now are the next generation of mech warriors. That's just the reality of it. And you need to get a game like this to them and in front of their eyes to get them interested in giant stompy robots. So I think the discoverability of the Epic game engine isn't bad. The idea, let me finish my thought here,
sorry.
Val. And then, the idea of creating enhancing your platform versus buying out your competition. Look at IT companies in general right now. Prime example, Facebook. Facebook is nothing but one giant data breach. But what are they doing? They're buying out all their competition and moving forward and moving forward and moving forward. They're not necessarily stopping and fixing what's going on internally. That's just the direction right now of the IT corporate movement. I don't agree with it. I think it's garbage.
Yeah, I was
But
going to say I don't
the
use
r-
Facebook,
the
so
the reality of it is that's what corporations are doing right now, especially in the IT. So I don't think it's necessarily fair to say we shouldn't launch on Epic, because Epic is the next generation of gamers right now. That's just a reality. And if we want the MechWarrior series to be going forward to MechWarrior 20 and MechWarrior 30 and all that, we need to bring in new blood, because eventually we're no longer going to be playing the game. But if but we still might appreciate the lore and.
So I'm gonna throw one back at you. And I mean, maybe this is going a little too off topic, but why is it that Epic then? Why is it that a company like EA can pull Origin out of nowhere and it has basic functionalities of a store and it at least functions, but Epic can't do the same thing? Like why is it that Epic's new generation entering the page, their launcher has like nothing? I mean, it legitimately doesn't have a shopping cart right now.
I can give you a very simple answer. Actually, there's two different answers. Rothgar can appreciate one of them, because Rothgar, it sounds like you work in the IT industry like I do.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, you do? DevOps. Have you ever run based on a DevOps model? This is
I'm like entry. I wouldn't say entry level. I am like support.
So-
I'm part of like a medium-sized company, and I'm one of two IT people running
Sure.
the whole company.
So just to kind of very briefly explain, DevOps is a development / release cycle that some IT shops use, where they release something and then they do continual improvement. And it's not necessarily like hard coding, but say you release a cloud service. Say like you adopt Office 365 in your environment, and then you slowly bring on more of the Office 365 apps. It's
Azure Active Directory, sure, yeah.
Azure AD, Intune, et cetera. I'm an IT manager, so I've been doing this for a long time. What you're witnessing right here is DevOps. This is a public consumer version of DevOps. Maybe not the best implementation, but we can set that opinion aside just for the moment, right? But it's a DevOps thing, right? The other thing is, honestly, and this is gonna sound a bit harsh, but laziness and arrogance. Have you ever read Tim Sweeney's Twitter?
Unfortunately, yes. I actually got to speak to him a couple days ago when the whole thing blew up, and it was something.
Right. So
I'm going to disagree with the laziness and arrogance comment. I'm just going to say it's pure arrogance. It's not laziness. It's because we can.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
just pure
because
arrogance.
they've got that money to spend.
I think there's something to say though that it's not like they've not improved any features.
That's
like once
true.
upon a
It's
time
come
it
a
didn't
little
have
ways.
two-factor. Now it does. Psycho and Jack mentioned in the chat, that the shopping cart that people like to rail on about is coming in like a month.
I remember my first experience of the Epic Game Store, because I did play Fortnite for a very short period of time when it first came out. Guilty as charged. I ended up getting out of it really quick because I got sick of it. But I remember one of my biggest gripes right when I started was you couldn't even change your email address. I thought that was absurd. So you're right. It has kind of grown a little bit, but I still feel like with the amount of money that they're getting that they could be putting towards development, they're putting that money instead towards buying the competition, which again, I don't think that's, if you've got to spend a stupid amount of money to get really good products to get people to come to your store rather than make your store viable, there's a problem.
Yeah, actually, Tim was very honest about it. He said flat out, it's the only way we can compete.
I wanted to.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I wanted to touch on this too. Is that we have to realize that this does not fall within the zeitgeist of what's commonly known as like good. It's a very slow, meticulous, and the best time it's played with a group of other people. You don't really see that happen. Well, it's actually becoming a little bit more prevalent now with the certain games, but MechWarrior, we have to understand, because we're all fans, we don't see it, is that it's not something that's in like readily. It's not what people play.
Yeah, it's a niche game.
It's a niche game for sure.
Yeah.
So the money moves that they're making right now is kind of like idealistically, or it looks like to me, something that's be an untested IP where they're trying to play it safe, even though it's been out for a while, just because they realize this isn't something that a lot of people are going to be looking at, and that's why they're spending a lot of money on getting their name out there.
Sure, and just to kind of one thing I want to point out is I pulled it up on stream here. I'm going to post a link in the Twitch chat, and I'll put it in my general Discord as well. One thing that Epic has done is they actually have a public Trello where you can see the full development cycle of their store. So stuff that they've recently shipped, their near-term, mid-term, long-term goals. They've got their patch notes listed here. Which, I mean, I will give credit where credit's due. This is a good way of demonstrating the dedication that they have to developing their store. It goes back though to my my earlier kind of mention, the fact that this is DevOps personified. This is a direct example of what a DevOps model is on something that's customer facing. It's messy. It's full of it's full of criticisms. It's bad moves, all that kind of stuff, and they all work towards a kind of an end goal. And in some respects, you could even listen if you ever read the previous patch notes in MechWarrior Online, where they say they're nudging this a little bit, nudging that a little bit, and Polinoy had said that we've got an end game in mind and we're trying to get there. In some respects, MechWarrior is that same DevOps model, and that they're constantly just trying to nudge themselves just that way. And like I said, the Epic Game Store itself, I don't think is a huge problem ultimately in the grand scheme of this discussion. I think this is it's kind of distracting from the real issues, right? It's certainly a problem that they went from multi-platform release to one, but this distracts from the bigger issue around the fracture in the MechWarrior community between Piranha Games and the community at large, and the communication challenges that have come up, and the missteps that have happened, and the I don't necessarily like saying lies, because I don't think they were trying to be purposely deceptive or trying to do any kind of bait and switch, but again, the challenging position that they found themselves in, because they said, okay, we're releasing on Steam, and they've been saying that for well over a year, and then they found themselves in a very unique situation where, well, now that's not happening, and that's not something that's really heard of in the gaming industry. Let's be honest, right? Games release on Steam unless you have your own store. Now we've got Epic,
right,
and it's certainly throwing a curveball. I sympathize with the challenges, but Russ should have seen it and should have engaged a marketing firm or some kind of PR firm to help weather the storm.
100%. If I were sitting in Russ's shoes, the one change I would make in all of Piranha Games is I would hire an external PR group to start handling the PR until you can get that culture shift back in the player base. 100%, that is the biggest fault in Piranha Games across the board.
And this isn't a unique problem to Piranha Games. A lot of companies have that challenge. The company that I work for has that challenge internally sometimes, and I run the communications for the IT department. So I understand.
Oh, believe me, yeah.
I understand.
I thought you said a second ago that you told me that they weren't planning on. They never actually wrote down that they were planning on releasing on Steam. And now you said they did?
No, they did.
They wrote it on a website.
It was
They
on
wrote it on the website, and they talked about it in AMAs. It was never on Steam like Metro Exodus was. It was never on Steam as an actual pre-order page, but they said multiple times in the FAQ that what you were pre-ordering was a Steam key. And then there were also, I think maybe at least one, because I heard the clip, but there might have been 2 AMAs where Russ said, we're going to be releasing on Steam, and we've been talking to the guys over at GOG, and we want to release there too.
Yeah. So you could never go to Steam and search for MechWarrior and come up with MechWarrior 5. You could only see MechWarrior online.
It just seems like to me that they use that Steam as a jumping off point to get the clicks or whatever.
No,
I wouldn't say that at all.
So
you can't use something as a jumping off point if you're not on it.
Yeah, and Kezor, like I mentioned, like any game, or the vast majority of games, like I would say almost exclusively, with the exception of, say, again, like an EA title or a Blizzard title, the game's going to be released on Steam, right? It's expected. It's almost, if you don't release on Steam, then you've got a problem. But there also wasn't a good competitor. GOG is as fantastic as it is. I don't personally have an account there, but GOG is a competitor, but very loosely. Right? They have a different. I think they market to a slightly different audience. That's why they wanted to release on both. But
I'm gonna head off for the night, guys. But it was cool talking to y'all.
all right, thanks for coming in, and I appreciate you coming in and dropping your idea down. I mean, I will say that I forgot about Discord, the fact that they sell
Me too.
games, but no,
But I've seen a lot of arguments about the profit revenue, and like
Sure.
you guys already said, it really brings to light that because of the other options, it's not really about the revenue share; it's about the money that Epic gives. But it just occurred to me, I was like, when I boot up Discord, I see. We already talked about it.
yeah, for sure. But no, thanks for
Am I
coming in.
the
Have a good night, guys.
Go ahead, Val.
Am I the only one who just found out approximately 20 minutes ago that there's a Discord game store?
Yeah.
You are
You're
probably
not
not
the
the
only
only one.
Okay.
Hey, Orc. By the way, folks, just a friendly reminder, if you do want to come in and join the conversation, you're absolutely welcome to. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts. With all the conversation here, it is a little bit difficult for me to keep up in chat. Type in exclamation Discord, jump into the waiting room. I'm going to go here for probably about another 30 minutes, and then I'm going to have to call it a night. Looks like I'm not going to be able to get any gameplay in, but that's okay, because I think this conversation needs to happen, because there has to be some rationality around all the stuff that's gone on. And like I said, I think there's accountability on both sides of this coin that we need to take on, that us as a community, we need to behave better. And I think Piranha Games needs to certainly behave better as well. But it's just a matter of what that looks like, and, trying to, smooth things over around what happened. Like, I don't think there was anything that was done maliciously or in bad faith. Like, and that's I think an important thing to point out. Hey, Mark. Mark Nicholson is hanging out in chat there. I don't think that they did anything in bad faith. I really, really, truly believe that that there was no bad faith intention with what they've done. I think there was a huge miscommunication, that a mishandling of the situation.
This kind of mishandling, though, it does give the impression that this is being kind of decided by the investors rather than it is the best interest of the people who want to play the game, and that leaves a bad taste in everyone's mouth. I know that might not be the case, but that's what it looks like.
I kind of wish that was true. Go ahead, Val. Sorry.
I was going to say, I don't know. I get more the impression that, earlier in the development, there was every intention to, like you said earlier, release on Steam. So they said Steam because Steam's just a given. But I feel like it's probably more that just, with the things Epic's doing right now, there's just a kind of unique and possibly time-limited opportunity for them to make more money, which is the objective of a business. There's a lot of chat going on about how, like, oh, they took a payout, or oh, they wanted those dollars, and it's like,
well,
yeah,
of course they did.
it's a business. Yeah. It's you got to look at it from that perspective, that you don't want to just sell enough copies. You don't want to make just enough money. You want your product to do as well financially as it can, and if Epic gives them a chance to do better, then yeah.
Exactly, and that's why I say it's a good business decision. Like, I don't begrudge the business decision whatsoever, right? Russ has a responsibility to keep the lights on. He has the responsibility to pay his fantastic employees. He's got, he loves the game. Like, he said that on many occasions, that, he looked at the game, the fact that he's got a game studio, and that there's a game that he's loved since he was a kid. I mean, I have zero doubt around the passion of everybody that works there. And even Russ, like, even though I've never really had a chance to talk to him beyond just saying hello to him once. But at the same time,
it is fair to say that he loves the MechWarrior franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, he's built a career over his love of this game.
And Derek Arsis kind of, brings up a good point. And I think I'd like to hope it was something that I was bringing up all along. But again, I don't fully agree that he's being deceptive. He said you can make good business decisions and not be deceptive to people supporting you. Other people do. It's not impossible and not mutually exclusive. I agree that you don't have to be deceptive. I don't believe that he was being deceptive. I think, though, he was caught in a very difficult situation that he had no idea how to handle, because this is new territory in a lot of ways, right? I mean,
Well-
I go ahead, Val.
It's also just generally bad practice to talk about ongoing business decisions while they're not
Exactly.
set in stone yet.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's one thing if they were in Epic Games in conversation with Epic Games from the outset, like from the point that they started developing the game, and they said we're gonna develop for this, but we're gonna say that. That type of deceptive practice, I can't get behind whatsoever, right? But this is they firmly intended to release on Steam. They in the end they said, you know what, we're gonna change directions. That there was a slight overlap with the with the end of the community pre-order and the actual application of that Epic Games agreement. I think that they certainly should have reworded that April 10th AMA where they said, yeah, we're going to release on Steam, and I guess consider this the official announcement that it's going on GOG, right? But again, hindsight's always 2020, and I can certainly, what I can do is I can play that clip again. I think everybody here has heard Russ talk normally, where he's usually pretty eloquent with what he says. He doesn't stutter or catch himself too much, but when he does, and apologies those of you in Discord, you're not gonna be able to hear this, but I'm gonna play the audio again, and I want you to just listen to it.
But I guess all I can say is that right now there's no plans to make MechWarrior 5 an Epic Store exclusivity, and that's as simply as I can put it. It's Steam at the moment. We're planning on releasing it again on Steam, and we're actually also planning releasing it for GOG. I think this could be more the official announcement for that. We haven't really done that yet. I think we've hinted around it, but we've done GOG Galaxy integration, and I've been talking to those guys over there at the GOG for a long time, and so it looks like you'd have your choice of the two keys at the moment, and those are the the planned platforms at the moment, and the game will be for sale on a lot of other platforms too, but those will be mostly at the moment the plan is that those would just be like Steam key distribution type things, as well as our own portal, which would then allow the choice of those two different key options. So that's where everything sits now, and that's the way it'll probably go.
So, listening to that, he's reaching, like desperately reaching, and Mad Rush. It's bad communication doesn't mean it's acceptable. I'd like to think, I don't know if you were around for when I was doing the monologue there. I think I was pretty vocal about the fact that this wasn't good, that there was a big screw up, that this could have been handled a lot better. I don't believe in punishing the folks that work at Piranha Games as a result of that. I think Russ is certainly taking it on the chin around the publicity of the matter, but this is very much a miscommunication, like very much. And I'm not gonna go and like start spewing toxic drivel or anything like that. That's not how I operate. I try to keep things. I try to be reasonable in everything that I look at. I try not to read too much into things. I fail at that sometimes, but I try not to read too much into it. But I mean, Russ has a track record, unfortunately, of not communicating well. He loves the game, but he needs to really engage with the talented folks that he has, or to engage in some kind of external outfit. He really, really does. I've got no doubt that he's got the passion, but he needs to let that go. He really, really does. There's a reason why large companies have a marketing arm, and the CEO generally comes up front when it's time to take some kind of criticism. But leading up to that, it's typically not the CEO that does that. It's a small game studio, so it certainly makes it a challenge. Well,
and the other thing is, if he is going to be that CEO who likes to talk, and there are some companies that do, having some debate prep ahead of time I think is going to be crucial.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's, he's got internal like people who are gonna grill him, so he knows what to expect in a situation like that. I felt like a lot of his answers, well, pretty in general are like you said, pretty eloquent, but they don't seem very they seem very off the cuff, not very political, quote unquote, where it's
Mm-hmm.
very scripted soundbite, able to turn the question into something that you can spin into something positive later. He doesn't do that. He it seems very like you were saying today. This is something spur of the moment. I don't have the prep ahead of time. He needs that if he's going to be the one to speak.
No, absolutely. It's disappointing that it's come to that it's come to this. But I mean, like I said,
Oh, hey, look what Mark said about that. Any
oh,
questions I've heard
yeah,
people ask, I asked internally.
yep.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I
That's
think
good.
That's good. I mean, like I said, like I've got, and I'm not just saying this because Mark's here. I said this before Mark showed up. I knew when Mark showed up. It's okay. I see everybody in chat. But I have a lot of faith in the folks that work at Piranha Games, and that's why I'm keeping my pre-order. My keeping my pre-order isn't a it's not to say, oh, I agree with the business practice of doing exclusives and them getting away with it. My keeping my pre-order is a vote for the people that work there, the people that are very passionate about the game, that put everything into the game that they can, that do fantastic work that we sometimes don't agree with, but they demonstrate their passion, they demonstrate their knowledge. I've had the privilege of sitting with Mark at both MechCons. The first one we sat there and kind of hid from people. That was at MechCon 2017. We found like a quiet corner. Myself, my friend Tofurky, Mark and his wife, and we sat there and watched the End of the Worlds, and we're just Tofurky and Mark were talking about anime the whole time. That was the second MechCon. Yeah, I never went to the first one. I never got to go to 2016. My first MechCon, not the first MechCon. And I want to say again, because there's some people that have joined in. I'm very proud of the people that watch this stream and that participate in the happy hour, because when Mark showed up, because like he normally does, nobody dogpiled him. Everyone's just like, hey, he's here to play mechs. Let's play mechs and have fun. And I love my community for that. I love the community that we've built here. And again, my sincere vote around keeping my pre-order is, like, one, I love the game, and two, I think the folks at PGI are fantastic. I don't want to keep people suffering.
And I actually decided to not cancel my pre-order for a lot of the same reasons. My one concern with the whole process was the security of Epic Games, and that was really it. And that a lot of those questions did end up getting, Russ did address that directly in the AMA.
He was kind of taken aback by it too. He was like, "Oh," like there was a bit of surprise with those questions about Epic security.
But he did address it, and looking at some of the other stuff that I was able to find once I knew what questions to ask, I feel completely comfortable with my $120 sitting in PGI's coffers.
Yeah, without a doubt. And and I want to be fair to people who decided to cancel their pre-order. I think that a lot of people who cancel their pre-orders, that I think they canceled it on good faith. There are some people out there that they just disagree with Epic Games. There are some people that don't like the idea of exclusivity, and I think, and I have absolutely zero criticism for people that just have decided to cancel their pre-order. I think, I'm, by and large a capitalist. I do feel that it's important for people to be able to have the ability to vote with their wallets and to put their money behind what they want to support and to walk away from something that they don't want to support. So it's I think it's very important that people have that ability, and I've got nothing but respect for PGI for the fact that they were right up front, and they said full refunds, no questions asked. You keep the MechWarrior online bonus content. All they ask is just don't do credit card chargebacks, because then your account will get banned for a couple of days. And because somebody actually did that well before this whole thing blew up. Somebody had canceled they did a chargeback on their credit card, so they had their MWO account banned for a little while. And that's something that actually blew up on Twitter. I'm by the way, I'm
Kind of what
sorry, Time. I think you were trying to say something. I keep on stomping over you there. Go ahead.
no, and kind of like what you started the whole conversation off with, and Cyclone just kind of reiterated. It's fine to disagree with the decisions made, but be respectful about it, and don't don't be rude to people who are just trying to make a living and make a game that all of us love.
Mhm.
Don't throw that hate out there. And if you want to get your message across, you're better served by having a rational conversation than, trying to rally the pitchforks and torches and burn people at the cross.
Sure, and I would go a step further and say that the like the Marks and the Pauls and the Tinas of the world, this isn't their decision. They're not the ones responsible for this direction in as far as where the game is being sold. Certainly ask your questions to Russ. I stress, do that in a respectful way. Don't just say, Russ, F you, you suck. Why did you completely about face? I don't think that's fair. He's human. I'm sure this hasn't been very fun for him. I try to, even if I'm upset, I always try to treat the other person with due course and respect. Because if I'm not going to get an answer out of them if I decide to just like lob F-bombs at them. That being said, there have been miscommunications in the past. People have been burned by it. And this kind of goes back to my earlier point about the fact that there is certainly a fracture in the MechWarrior online community against PGI and vice versa, something that has grown since I started streaming 2.5 years ago. So this is something that's been slowly building over time. And I think it's up to, I think everybody here that's in Discord with me, I mean, I don't like an echo chamber. I really don't. I really like it when somebody has an alternative opinion that is able to kind of, express it eloquently in a way that's not just, F you, F this. I was hoping that somebody would be on here that would be in complete disagreement to have a chat. I think the closest one would be the person who I can't remember how to pronounce his name now, but even then it was respectful. It was, I think, a decent and reasonable discussion. But like, what do we do from here? Like, what do we, like, where do we go? Like, how do we fix this? We got about 11 minutes left before I need to kind of shut the stream down and get ready for bed. But, what do we do, like, as a community, as from our side, from the consumers of the product? What can we do for this?
One thing is not tolerate the vitriol of the very vocal minority and call them out on. Do you have your After Dark tag up? No. Okay, so call them out on their BS.
Mm-hmm.
If they're being, the typical online troll, whether we agree with what they're saying, it's not what they're saying, it's how they're saying it. And we need to remind people that they're talking to another human. and keep we as the player base, the civil aspect of the player base, we need to really be in the forefront right now because if you're constantly getting this garbage thrown at you, eventually it's gonna burn you out, and you're not gonna have that love for the game. And it's in the end, it's us, the player base, that's going to be the one suffering because we're no longer going to have a game that people care about, so they're not going to continue to want to produce it. So I think we as the player base, the best thing we can do is stand up for civility.
Sure. Okay, I'm going to call out the rest of the people here because they're being very shy, so I'm going to put them on the spot. Electric Rider, what are your thoughts?
My nickel, I guess, since we don't have a penny anymore.
This is true.
You said it yourself. We live in a capitalist society, right? So the decision to go with the Epic exclusive was probably financially based. I agree with that. They're a business. They need to put food on the table. I don't agree with exclusives. My preferred platform is Steam. I was looking forward to all the modding and the support of uh, the mod community that did the BattleTech mods. What is it? I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. Anyway, the people who modded the crap out of BattleTech, that apparently did 4,000 refunds and stuff like that. Like I was looking forward to a lot of the mod support and all my friends who play with on Steam. Kind of rambling a bit, but where I'm sitting, I'm not emotional. I just started playing MechWarrior Online in January, so I don't have a lot of the quote unquote disappointment that people say they've had with MechWarrior Online over the years. I just don't see it. But for me, emotions aside, I prefer Steam. I don't agree with the exclusivity through Epic. I believe they're buying out PGI and has put them in a situation where they have to go Epic exclusivity just to get that paycheck to help make the game what they want, and that's a great decision with them, but I don't agree with it. So where I'm standing is I'm an ultimate pre-order. I am seriously just considering refunding it and then purchasing it when it comes out on Steam. One, because I spent 180 bucks Canadian on a pre-order for
Same
a
here.
platform that I don't want it on. So just strictly capitalist speaking, I can get the game on my platform for a considerable amount of less money now, and I might do that because I am a single income family who wanted to support something on my preferred platform because everything was lined up exactly how I wanted it, but now it is not. So I think I'm going to go that route. I might refund and then purchase it on Steam a year later.
Okay, now just a quick question, because the question was raised in the first AMA, if people waited a year, if they got Steam keys.
Yeah, I asked that question too without an answer, and you know what? Honestly, if I could keep my Steam key and have all of my pre-order content available for Steam a year later, yes, I would keep my pre-order.
Okay, cool. Thank you for the clarification. It's good. It's good to hear somebody from the other side, like from somebody who's kind of leaning towards the refund and hearing the answer, because sometimes it's not as simple as just I don't like Epic, right? You mentioned yourself, you're a single income family, your money's rather important. I mean, you have the preferred platform of Steam, so I get it. And if Electric Rider, if you decide to refund, I think I think it's fine. Like I'm fine either way.
Yeah, the bottom line comes that I paid 180 bucks for a game when I can refund it and then repurchase it for whatever it comes on sale for on Steam. Like if all emotions are out of the side and it's strictly a dollar value equation, I have the opportunity to get my money back, keep my MechWarrior Online content, and then purchase it at a lesser price. Like it's not sure, yeah, supporting a company in development, but like when it comes down to it, it's dog eat dog, man.
Sure. Okay. Awesome. Thanks for that, man. Kezarek, your turn.
Games like this, I'm not gonna buy the pre-order, honestly, because I don't believe that I'm going to find people who want to play with me in the capacity I think it would make this game really good.
I want to play with you. I want to play games with you.
We'll play with you guys, Rick.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be that easy for me to hook up with people and to really enjoy the game to this fullest capacity. But I really appreciate that.
I mean, come on, Kezarek. I mean, you know I'll play games with you. I mean, I kind of take the piss out of you a little bit, but I mean, come on, man, you're cool. But I mean,
I have it coming.
Yeah, you have it coming. That's true. That's true. But
honestly,
no, please go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
You're gonna be entertaining like a lot of other people playing the game too. I mean, it's only like 4 people at a time.
Yep.
I guarantee you that like even if I do get into After Dark, right when you launch those rosters, I mean that's gonna be filled.
We'll see, because I don't know how this is going to happen yet. Like I still haven't worked out how this is going to happen when. Like, I mean, certainly Friday night is going to always be the MW happy hour, and it's going to be at least until MechWarrior Online stops, if it ever does. So I think that's a little bit different, but we can plan it out. But so you haven't just to confirm you weren't part of the community pre-order. So you're talking about when/if. It sounds like judging from the fact that they have the page on the Epic Game Store already, it sounds like a when thing as far as when the general pre-order is going to be announced. Like if it is, like I said, the fact that it has it here, I think there's probably going to be a pre-order. It's just my observation based on this.
Well, I bought into the turn-based version, the MechWarrior. I forgot what exactly it was. Yeah, BattleTech.
Yep.
Thinking that I would be able to play with other people. I ended up playing BattleTech by itself, and I enjoyed it, but I felt like I could enjoy it a lot better if I was playing with other people.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I don't know you, but I'll drop with you.
There you
I'm
go.
worried the same thing is going to happen with this. Well,
Kezarek, I mean, if it's that simple, like I said, I'll happily play with you because I said this. But I mean, we banter around a lot. You're a cool guy. You're good.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, when it comes out, we'll see what it's like, and then I'll make my decision after that.
Sure.
I'll probably end up getting it just because I love MechWarrior.
Okay, no, that's fair. That's fair. All right, thanks, Kezarek. Lefty Frizz, your turn.
What? I've already spoken.
But no, you haven't. You haven't spoken. You came in at the beginning, and then you muted your microphone, and you started
because I was playing while everybody else was talking.
All right, so come on.
No, I still get the music. I still get the artwork. I still get the game when it comes out. I get to play the beta. I'm happy.
So you're keeping your pre-order. I mean, certainly they've made some mistakes. They need to work on that. But
everybody makes mistakes. Everybody needs to fix it. Everybody needs to have PR. My dogs need to shut the hell up.
Don't do that when I've got a mouthful of scotch.
Poor Nutty.
All right, sorry.
God.
Hey, Cyclone. Go ahead, Lefty. Go ahead.
So I'm pretty happy with what I got. I'm not, I've already said my piece about it.
So you're keeping the pre-order?
Yeah.
Excellent.
When I get an opportunity to stream it and everybody else gets to watch it.
There you go. All right, Timeliness. Your turn. You've been very quiet. I've been trying to give you some space, but the floor is yours.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I tend to kind of take a passive stance on things.
Mm-hmm.
I already spent the money on the pre-order. It's out of mind. I'm not worried about where that is, and I just wrote it off. As far as going for a refund, I was considering it, but I have until the 1st of September. So I'm kind of wait and see how everything plays out, because this is very telling for PGI.
Mm-hmm.
And this seems just to be the beginning. So, if it continues to spiral out of control, I might pursue a refund. But if it seems to go toward a road of recovery for the community,
sure,
I'll likely just keep my pre-order and enjoy the game when it comes out.
Okay, so another vote to keep. Oh, well, I shouldn't say vote. That's not fair. Someone who is keeping their pre-order. Okay. Val, your turn.
I look at it from the perspective of I've been very forgiving of PGI through this whole thing. Like, I understand the business side of this, and like, I've been part of the MechWarrior community, like the MWO community, since it started. The MechWarrior 4 community years back. I started BattleTech when I was 4 years old with BattleTech on the Sega Genesis, which was the same game as MechWarrior 3050. This is my favorite series, and I look at, if this is good for PGI, then it's good for MechWarrior. And I'll support that. Could they have communicated better? Yeah, absolutely. But that's not going to diminish my support for the company or the series.
Okay. No, that's good. All right, so we had two people join, so I'll give them a chance to speak up as well. First up is the one only Cyclone Jack. Cyclone.
How's it going, Nutty?
I'm doing well, sir. How you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good.
So what are your thoughts on? I'll say, like, there's the closing question, and I think, you know, to be fair to you, because I mean there's the whole overarching discussion that I've had tonight around what the fuck happened in the community for the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
As far as what happened with the community, I don't know. I don't know. I think certain people were waiting on edge. Certain people saw the delay. Certain people latched on to certain keywords and were looking forward to something, and when they didn't get it, after everything that's been going on and disappointments, they kind of freaked out. Are they wrong? No. Are they right? No. It is what it is. And we're a gaming community that deals with gaming as a whole, studios across the way. It happens with everybody. It's not just PGI. Decisions and choices and things happen.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the closing question, whether or not I'm going to keep my pre-order or not, I've pre-ordered games like Escape from Tarkov. I pre-ordered games like The Division 1, and we all remember the debacle that was. I even have a copy of a certain Robert Space Industries game. So when I pre-order a game, when I get my hands on a game, when I throw my money at a game, I don't think about the studio. I think about what product I could possibly be getting my hands on. And much like Val and Timely and everybody else here, I was a kid that was always looking for something to sink my teeth into. And in the 90s, my cousin Alan sat me down on his Dell computer and said, "Hey Jack, check this out. I got something at PC Warehouse called MechWarrior 2. You pilot big stompy robots, but they move like a tank." And that's what I've invested in. That's the money, or that's where I put my money. The franchise, the name, the game, a game that has made me a content creator, a game that has made me hundreds and hundreds of friends, a game that brought me to find Nutty and all my other friends that are content creators. And if it wasn't for that game, I don't know where I'd be right now. So fuck yeah, I'm keeping my pre-order. I'm not going anywhere.
Awesome.
Well said, Cyclone.
Well said. You know, just a kind of an aside, because you brought up MechWarrior 2. So I started playing at MechWarrior 3050, but I really didn't grow an attachment to the game until MechWarrior 2. at 30, 50 is like, oh yeah, it's cool. Let's have fun. And then I'd go back and rent Romance of the Three Kingdoms, which is like the only game that I've played more than MechWarrior. I shouldn't say MechWarrior Online, but more than MechWarrior. That's the only other game that I've played more. Everyone's like all like stoked about Total War Three Kingdoms. Like, come on, I played Romance of the Three Kingdoms 2. Come on, you guys. Come on. For Nintendo, not Super Nintendo, but Nintendo. But MechWarrior 2 is very special to me. And MechWarrior 2 was the one that really drove me into the series. And the reason for that, so at that stage, I didn't have a PC. I had other computers, I had gaming consoles, but I didn't have a Windows PC. A friend of mine did. And what we would do is we would play in pairs.
Yep.
So one would be on the keyboard, the other one would be on a joystick. And I loved that. The communication back and forth, target, you want to go to this nav point, you want to target this mech, go for this one, fire these weapons, go into passive sensors, go into image enhancement, engaged, the wireframe mode. The box, Crane Army and Mad Rush Design, the box art. That's where I fell in love with the game, and I fell in love with the social aspect of the game, and that stuck with me. So,
yeah, dude.
So Cyclone, I get it. Like, as a content creator, it's weird. It's weird saying that. As a content creator for MechWarrior Online and MechWarrior in general now. I mean, I love the game. I love it. GPX, I know you dropped in here just at the same time as Cyclone. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree. Communication should have been handled better. This is coming from a guy who used to be a traffic control flagger, and communication is key in that job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm keeping my pre-order. I love MechWarrior, and that's why I bought the game to begin with. Coming in from being in this community for just a little under 2 years, you guys have all welcomed me in, arms open and all, and helped me with my gaming style and all. I see no reason to cancel it. I've already paid the money. It's in PGI's pocket. Why bother going through?
Sure. Oh no, Rothgar's talking about Romance of the Three Kingdoms. So,
hey, Nutty.
Lefty.
Electric Rider had a question.
Oh,
patient in chat. So.
Oh, what's the question?
Oh, thank you. No, just you touched on it earlier about. I don't think we've ever gotten an answer. It's why, even though like the pre-order was completely separate from the Epic deal, how come we cannot have a Steam key for our pre-order? Was that ever answered?
It actually was. And here, let me pull up my notes from the AMA, because Russ was actually pretty good about it. Before I do, just very quickly. Okay, there's Will. Will, just bear with me a second. I'm just going to answer an Electric Rider question here, and then I'll give you the floor. So when Metro Exodus happened, just to recap what happened, Metro Exodus released on Steam, as a pre-order on Steam. So as in, you can open up Steam, you could do a search for Metro Exodus. And you can find it and buy it, and pay for the pre-order. After that happened, Epic then offered them I don't know what the amount of money was. Obviously, I don't think nobody does, but they changed their course and they decided, you know what, we're going to go to an Epic Games exclusive. So think about that for a second. That was on the front page of Steam. It was getting tons of marketing. They were getting all these pre-orders. And then the game developer pulled the rug out from under Steam and said, F you, we're going to Epic. Terrible. The players of that game revolted. They were pissed off. Valve was obviously upset. I think they did the best in a bad situation. They said we will they said we're going to honor the games that were sold on Steam because, well, Valve made their 30% cut of the sale. They'll still deliver patches and everything, but that's it. Like, if there's any DLC for the game, that's only going to be available on the Epic Game Store. Metro Exodus was a huge fuck up, and the result is that Valve changed their policies. they said, you know what, you can't do this. Once you've signed with us, you are signing a contract to be part of Steam, and you cannot release. You cannot then retract it. So because of that, they can't offer a Steam key because there's just no presence on Steam. There's zero presence on Steam at the moment. In a year, there will be. Now, there's one other thing that I haven't brought up, is that, and something that Russ said during the discussion, he said that Epic is only interested in exclusives right now. And this is kind of a criticism of Russ when he said that. So we all know that a certain Cyberpunk game was recently announced, and it's here on the Epic Game Store, available. And by the way, the pricing that you're seeing there, pretty sure that's Canadian pricing. But if I go to Steam, guess what? You can also pre-order Cyberpunk on Steam. So
didn't the dev basically just give a middle finger to Epic and said "F you"? Wasn't that in like a Reddit post or something?
Well, CD Projekt Red is what it is. So I think it's not so much that Epic is only interested in exclusives, but I'm pretty sure it's that Piranha Games was not in the same bargaining position as Piranha Games was not in the same bargaining position as the Cyberpunk developer was. CD Projekt Red. They're nowhere near. They're not anywhere near as well known compared to CD Projekt Red. I mean, this title is massive. They had freaking Keanu Reeves in it and up on stage and all that kind of stuff. So I think that the bargaining position between CD Projekt Red and Piranha Games is very different. Piranha Games is an indie game studio. It's an old indie game studio, but it's an indie game studio, right? CD Projekt Red is very much not. So, Metro Exodus caused a whole bunch of policies to happen that prevented Piranha Games from really being able to offer Steam keys until it's released on Steam. And it's not going to be released on Steam for a year.
But can't I just get a Steam key in a year?
That was asked. Russ hasn't answered it yet.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. It's still indeterminate. Okay.
He had an answer, to be fair. It was, that's interesting.
Yeah, he was really surprised by it. I want to give some space here. Will, go ahead, and you said you wanted to come in to talk about something, so please go ahead.
Yes, it was actually about about my decision about keeping the pre-order, and I decided that the reason why I wanted to keep my pre-order is because things that PGI has done in the past, and despite all the vitriol happening, they actually have done some good things. I mean, there's things like the Sarah Jenner, they've done charity events. Most important thing of all is they had a certain IP troll to the curve, and now because of them, we can finally get those missing unseens back. I believe that saved PGI themselves, but it also helped out to rescue HBS and Catalyst Game Labs. Time when this was happening, the patent trolls were actually going ahead and trying to get at basically, anything that remotely looked like their mecha. The reason why I decided to keep my pre-order is because coming from a person that's basically having a degree in a computer programming background, of the idea of modding mechs and trying to make new things from that. And it's just something I want to put to the test because I already have Unreal Engine because of that. With the rest of you, Russ should have said things way better and not just, keep things in the dark. For me, it's not the fact that he went to the Epic launcher that gets me. It's the fact that he chose to and wait until last minute. Personally, it wouldn't have bothered me if he would have said something like situation that we're in, we might consider going to Steam. I mean, not we might consider going to Epic, or because of the situation we're at, we're actually consider big as of right now. And even though people are gonna have their grievances about it, even if Russ did tell the truth, that the truth hurts. Sure, people might still take it as a blow, but the blow could have been cushioned to become softer had he would have said that. To people about refunding their pre-order, please say that I don't really blame them, and it's also a wise decision. The fact that this happened now have some things that are kind of affecting people, and I wouldn't even fault. Like I talked to people before about this whole idea of myself that if I ever made that decision to go ahead and keep my pre-order, I want to show people the same respect because given the fact they didn't know about this, it's not fair to go out and say, haha, you're an idiot because you pre-ordered your because you pre-ordered because you made a refund, so I get to keep my stuff. Or haha, you're an idiot because on it. Because what sense does that make? It's just that you have to give some people the benefit of the doubt. And I would rather let people, have this time to reflect on what they want to do and try to sympathize with them instead of try to tear them down for it. Say.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, individual decisions around whether to keep the pre-order or not. I have zero criticism. It's a personal financial decision. I'm very supportive of people voting with their wallets, so to speak. So I'm totally on board with you. Absolutely on board with you. Anything else there, Will? Before I hand it over to Vogfather, who snuck in.
That's basically it.
All right, cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Vogfather.
Hey.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing. Let me be honest. Starting this chat. What is it, like an hour and a half? Hang on. Let me. How long have we been going here? Uptime. 2 hours and 20 minutes ago, I was in certainly a different spot. I was really frustrated about a lot of things. But after talking to folks here in Discord and the chat that's scrolling by and just to kind of try to provide a moderate voice to all the stuff that's going on right now, the extremes on either side, I'm feeling better. I'm feeling much better.
Well, I've been with MWO since the very beginning. I was part of the beta testing for it, and it's.
Are you a founder?
I've. Been,
Are you a founder?
I am a founder.
Okay.
I have the Atlas one, so I am the legendary founder ones. But
okay.
I've been playing this game. There was a period of time where I stopped for a while, and then I ended up running across your stream of all things, and I started playing again. I'm sure you remember that.
Mm-hmm.
PGI throughout the years as I've been playing, I mean they've been great in my opinion. I mean, as far as if there's ever a problem with them, you make a ticket, they answer you right away. And they've always been about the community, at least from what I could tell. From my end of it, they've been really supportive of us. They give us mech packs and things to throw at us streamers to throw it at the people that are viewing the streams, right?
For the record, we absolutely do not deserve Matt Newman. We really don't. Matt's freaking fantastic. Sorry, go ahead.
And there's not very many companies that really go out there and mech packs. I mean, what they're anywhere from $40 upwards to what, $60, $80 in some cases, and they just hand them out to us, and I think that's absolutely awesome of them. And you made a mention of the disconnect between the community and everything during the AMA, and I absolutely agree with that. And I'm not sure what happened there, but looking at it from a business standpoint, I understand why it happened. Because when you're doing talks like that, as far as contracts are concerned, you can't really say anything about it. If you say something about it like that, it can end up causing problems elsewhere that it's completely unforeseen. But at the same side of it, I mean, throughout this whole pre-order process with it, throughout the whole, ever since it was released, it was always about, community edition and we have all these AMAs where you can actually put your input, or you can ask us questions about how everything is going, and what you can provide feedback even to what the things you wanted to see in the game. And then out of the blue, it's just like, we just made this decision, and that's how it's going to be. And I'm sorry, but if you want your refund, you can get it, but that's how it's going to.
I think if they included I'm sorry with that, I mean, I'd be maybe a little bit less salty, but they didn't even do that.
And that's another thing. And that AMA, I mean, right from the very beginning, it felt Rush was being really standard. At least the way, the tone of his voice, it felt like he's like, yeah, let's get this over with. Let's get this going. Let's answer these questions. And that's how I felt with it. I don't know about if that's how you felt about it, but
oh, absolutely. I thought that the biggest challenge that I saw with that AMA was the lack of empathy. It was Russ mentioned community blowback, but he mentioned it in a way that was like, oh, we knew there was going to be blowback, so we decided to go with it anyways, rather than acknowledge the fact that so the only whenever he mentioned the community, it was about community blowback, but he felt that he was making the best decision for the game and the studio, which I will say, as a CEO, that is his responsibility. Right?
Oh, yeah, and I agree. From the business aspect of it, it's completely correct.
Yeah.
All the numbers align and everything like that, but it's just that and PGI is not the first gaming company to do this kind of thing, and I understand that.
So do you want to know how
good? Hang on. I'll give you a sec. We're kind of doing closing statements here. You're welcome to.
Well, no, I understand how good this is for them. I mean, it's absolutely phenomenal. I watched your divide because I couldn't watch it because I was working.
Sure.
It happens. But it's absolutely phenomenal for the company, and I'm truly happy for them. Because that means it's gonna pass down to us, for people who are actually going to play the game. It means a longer support, more available for them to actually put forward into the game itself, and I completely understand that. And as a business end of it, but as far as the PR end of it, as far as the way that it was presented to the community, I don't agree with it whatsoever. I've been in customer service for 10 years for Comcast, of all people, and I don't know what he was thinking at that point, but I mean, we wanted him to be there for us, and it was just like, yeah, let's get this over with.
Right. For sure. No, I kind of felt the same thing too, and it was really disappointing because, again, I have a huge amount of respect for Piranha Games, for what they've done with MechWarrior Online and MechWarrior 5. It's very, very disappointing about what kind of happened on that end.
And and I'm gonna stick with the guy. I mean, I absolutely love the community. I love you guys. I've been here with you guys for several years now, and watching the streams and playing with everybody. And I've never really had any problems with anybody that I know about. But you guys have always been awesome, and I look forward to playing with you guys in MechWarrior 5 and hopefully streaming it. But
And we miss you on Friday nights. You need to come and hang out with us. we need that laugh,
right?
My friend. We need that laugh.
Right. We all need that laugh, right?
For sure. For sure. Thanks, Vlog.
But I have no intentions of getting rid of my pre-order just because I can't wait to play with you guys with it, and I really look forward to that.
For sure. Me neither. Gitka, you've a late edition, good sir. How you doing?
Yes. So I don't think people understand how well of a business decision this is.
Mm-hmm.
So they had 20,000 pre-orders at $40, going at Steam prices along with the 5% UE. They were only doing, I say only, they were only doing 640,000.
Yeah.
Now under Epic Games, doing the exclusive, with 5,000 pre-orders taken away, they're still doing 650,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's a phenomenal. It's absolutely mind-boggling how great the deal is, but they just took care of it the wrong way.
Oh yeah, like it's fantastic business decision, terrible marketing and communication. Like,
yes.
And I really hope they're able to kind of I don't know if Russ is going to watch this. I know Mark is in chat. I don't know whether any of this is going to get back to him. I hope it does. I really hope that he's able to listen to the moderate voices of the community that are saying, "Hey, you know what? You fucked up." Apologies for the F-bombs. I promised I'm not doing this in a way that, I'm not saying F this, F that, but, you screwed up. And I think there's a major component of the community here that would love to hear, we're sorry that this ended up this way. I mean, they're Canadian. We even have a law, believe it or not. We have a law in Canada. I mentioned this in the monologue. We have a law in Canada about apologies, in that you can make an apology and not admit guilt. Like, come on, we're Canadian. Some kind of empathy, some kind of, reasonable discourse with the community to be like, hey, we're sorry that this happened. It was necessary. We're offering you this refund as a not as an olive branch. I don't want to be like that, but as out of respect for the fact that we changed our decisions. There's so many ways this could have been handled better. And Gika, I mean, I completely agree with you. The communication that they did was just, they need to do better. They really need to do better. But we also need to do better as a community as well. I'm not sure if you've been watching the kind of the shit show on Twitter, but it's been.
I don't need to.
Just don't. just.
Yeah, and sitting there and just sitting there and bad mouthing the company about this. I agree with you again in that you can't do that. It just makes you get your comments ignored. That's all it does.
Mm-hmm.
Well, even then, it's just like you can get mad at it on the first day. Continuing to be mad at it is just you crying over spilled milk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. All right, let me see. Did we add anybody else here? I think we made it through everybody here. Holy cow, it's 10 o'clock.
Half hour past when you wanted to end, huh?
It's yeah. I here's the thing. Like, I expected like 20 to 30 minutes of monologue, and then another I would say an hour of discussion. And well, we kind of doubled. It's now 2.5 hours in. All right. So before I disconnect and just say goodnight to the stream, folks in Discord, do you have any kind of absolute final thoughts that you wanna throw out there? Any encouragements? Any suggestions to folks watching in chat or that'll watch the VOD later on YouTube if they get this far?
I appreciate your level-headedness.
I do want to.
Sorry, go ahead, Will. We'll go bottom to top. So we'll go Will first and then Timeliness.
Okay, I want to say that for those of you shows, whether you decide to keep your pre-order or refuse your pre-order and refund it, y'all have to show some respect towards each other and just love one another, because it's for why you refunded, and they have reasons for why they refunded pre-order. So try to not start any fights between each other and learn to just go ahead and move on. We've had enough bickering on Twitter, and so let's just let this simmer down and actually think about this to help the game. And whatever happens, happens.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Will. I appreciate that. Timeliness. Please go ahead.
I was just saying I appreciate your level-headedness, but
thank you.
I guess for the whole audience of this stream, just try to pass on like level-headedness. I mean, one of the reasons I've loved MechWarrior Online and the community that's here is everybody's like, there's nobody screaming and yelling like a Call of Duty. That's, I mean, I'd like it to stay that way.
Play ranked Dota, and just get Cuz laughing because he knows what that's like.
I don't know what it's like. I've heard stories.
It's bad. It's bad. No, but thank you. And yeah, I mean, I certainly preach level-headedness and reasonable discussion, and yeah, again, reasonable criticism. No, I think I don't think anybody's blameless here. I think there's plenty of blame to go around, but there's a way to approach it. But thank you for that, Thomas. I appreciate it. Anybody else want to perk up quickly before I disconnect myself out of Discord and close out the stream?
Disconnect yourself out of Discord and close your stream. Hey, everybody. Thanks. Good night. I'll talk to you later.
All right,
Have
Lefty.
a good night, everybody. I appreciate everything, Nutty, and I'll definitely see you on the battlefield. Have a good night.
All righty, thanks, Vlogfather. I appreciate it. All right, Discord. Good night.
Thanks.
Good
night.
Good night,
Have a good night,
everybody.
Take care, Nutty.
Please love each other. Everyone.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for me for the evening. I do want to just do a couple quick shout-outs of stuff that's happened while we were live. I did have to mute my my alerts here just because I really wanted to focus on the conversation. Rothgar came in with a host very early on. Zensis, thank you for that follow. Kezelric resubbed 9 months in a row. That means Kezelric, we will have a... you will have to name one of my mechs, one of my non-hero mechs. Kezelric and I have officially had a mech baby. So when you resub at 9 months, you name one of my mechs, and I've got 495 of them, so I got tons of mechs to name. And Timeliness comes in, with a Twitch Prime subscription as well. Guys, gals, Mech Warriors, Solaris fans, everybody in between, thank you very much for tuning in tonight. I know this is completely different from what you were expecting. Normally you expect gameplay, you expect a little bit of witty commentary, all that kind of stuff, but I think this really needed to be talked about. This has been a very controversial subject. It has certainly blown up emotions on various social media platforms, and while a lot of people are talking about the game, it's probably a good idea to have people talking positively about the game. I've mentioned at the beginning of the stream what my potential biases are. I've got a fantastic relationship with Piranha Games. They've helped me a lot, and with No Guts No Galaxy. I count Mark Nicholson, who's hanging out in chat, as a friend. He comes by and hangs out often and plays games. But despite all that, I think that there is legitimate criticism to throw around. I really hope we can turn this page and move towards a good MechWarrior 5 release, and not only that, but a continued fantastic MechWarrior online experience for those people that play, and obviously for those who support and develop the game at all. Everybody here has a responsibility to be that positive force to kind of help build this community back to what it used to be. I fell in love with this community 2.5 years ago when I started streaming, and I'm committed to trying to be that reasonable force to keep things going. Russ, if you watched, I hope that you don't take my criticisms in a way that is an attack. I truly believe that you were in a difficult position. You did the best with what you think you could have done, but I think it would have been a better option to hire a professional firm, or again, leverage the talent that you have within Piranha Games to communicate this better. All you can do is look forward. You can't look backwards, with the exception of learning from the mistakes, and I really hope you do. Community, folks, those of you who tune into the NuttyCast, you're all fantastic. I love the reasonable and rational discussion. I love the fact that while we've been talking about challenging conversations, we have Mark from Piranha Games in the chat. Nobody's dogpiling him. Everyone's just talking about mechs, and I think there's some anime discussion there, all that kind of stuff. I appreciate the respect that everyone is flowing around here tonight. It is really appreciated. Tomorrow night is my night off, so I'll be back on Friday night for the MWO happy hour. I start the happy hour up at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and we go till late. I'm going to be going later than normal because Star Wolf's not going to be live tomorrow night, so I'm going to be trying to stay a little bit late, trying to stream a bit later on. To kind of fill that gap. So tomorrow will be a crazy night for the MWO happy hour. Make sure you tune in. It is a public night. If you've never dropped in on the MWO happy hour, anybody from the chat is welcome to play. We welcome folks from all skill levels, all play styles. All we ask is that you are cool. You come and hang out with us in Discord and have fun. All right, folks, I'm going to take a look to see who to send everybody over to next. But that is it for me. I'm exhausted. Thank you for listening. I do appreciate your attention, your kind attention, and I hope that we can move forward. My name is Nutty Rat. This is the NuttyCast. Good night, and I'll see you on Friday night for the MW Happy Hour. Good night.